Okay, so this is a nice example that I got from one of the students' story. So he told me his processing file, or his sketch, isn't working and he'd like to know why. Okay, so first off, he's got this whole thing, and if you mouse over, it's named The Thing with Lines and Whatever for Joe's class on January 16th, or is it January? I forgot how to spell. Anyways, this file is me trying to do something with lines and drawing a rectangle.pd. Okay, first things first. Try to launch. Okay, your tricky but not tricky enough is an interesting name for an error window. Okay, so this blah blah thing is not a valid name for a sketch. Better stick to ASCII 2, no spaces, and make sure it doesn't start with a number. Okay, so apparently there are naming conventions with processing, and you're not allowed to use certain names. So I'm going to, oh god, and it still started processing. So I'm going to rename this thing Story is a Pain.pd. Okay, it needs to be inside a sketch folder. Sure, whatever. Alright, so I have now Stories sketch, which has a bunch of stuff. Let me just try to run it and see what happens. Okay, so I got a little black rectangle. Is all with me on that? Okay, so let me... What was this supposed to do, Story?
So I wanted the line dealio, the 4 lines that I have, and then also to do it by just drawing it in. I was trying to do both.
Oh, okay, so they're supposed to be... These are supposed to make a rectangle, and then this thing is also supposed to make a rectangle? Okay, and that you had initially here, and I'm going to go back to an earlier version quick, because you used to have this, right? There was another void draw here. Okay, and so that's kicking an error all by itself, which is saying duplicate method draw in type story is a pain. Okay, so why is that a problem? Like just... Yeah, I mean, I don't even really know what void draw does, but apparently it's a method, right? And from the error code here, I'm getting... Apparently you're not allowed to have a duplicate method. Why would that be a good idea? Go for it, Ben.
If you call a method, which one is it going to use?
Right, so when you tell it to do that thing, how does the computer know which thing it ought to be doing? Does that make sense? So it's kicking this error because you're not allowed to have a duplicate. But all you wanted was the 2 rectangles, right? Okay, so let me just remove that one. So I don't need to call that. It can just all live in the same place. That should be fine, right? I don't even really know what the draw thing does. Well, what do you expect it to do? It probably is the part of the program that draws stuff. What's this other one? So up here we've got a void setup, right? What's that one? Yeah, that's probably the one that sets things up, right? Okay, so why is this still drawing just 1 rectangle and not 2? Anybody see it? Yeah, I mean, these lines look like a bunch of gook, right? So what if I just, like, I want to see if the lines are working, right? So let me just take this stuff about the second rectangle and just turn it off. Right? Poor man's hack? Oh, and now it's missing a bracket. Why is it missing a bracket? Yeah, because I just commented that one out. So let me put it back here. Okay, now it's not complaining about a missing bracket. Let me hit go and see what happens. Now this is, it's sort of hard to see, right? But there's a black rectangle with kind of a fuchsia, or sorry, a black window with a kind of a fuchsia rectangle in it. It's pink. There's a really pink rectangle.
I
Okay. Where's the fuchsia coming from? Do you guys see that part of the code? Yeah, that's this stroke, which is apparently all red and blue. Right? Apparently when you mix red and blue, you get fuchsia. Okay. So these are working, right? But then when I uncomment this stuff, like if I go back to where I was before, and hit go, all of a sudden now I have a white background with no fuchsia rectangle. Oh, it is. You guys see that? So you have a background up here, right, in your setup that's making the background black. And then down here, you're setting the background to be white. You guys see that? So the background was black, then we drew the fuchsia lines on it, then we set the background to white. What does that do with your fuchsia lines? Paints over the top of it. So if we comment that thing out, oh yeah, we can make the other background white. So we want it to be 255, right, to be white. Now we hit run, and hey, there's our fuchsia rectangle from our lines, and our black one from the rectangle command. You guys cool with that? That makes sense? Cool. So this is the process I kind of want you to go through, like debugging code, right? Like if there are bugs, first things first, comment a bunch of stuff out until you know where you are, right? Until you're back at something that runs the way you expect it to. And then you spend a little bit like, okay, if I uncomment this, does that part work? If I comment these ones and not that one, can I figure out which one's kind of causing problems? Because remember, right here, we did not have a compiler error, right? You guys see that? Like this is not a coding error. What category of error is this? Yeah, this is a logic error. You guys see that? Okay, so two kinds of errors to be on the lookout for. One is pretty easy in processing because it does kick those little error codes at you. The other one's going to be a lot harder here because it lets you draw over the top of itself a lot.
That's cool, because that means we can like set up something up where we mouse click and it takes that background away.
Yep.
And then it reveals them.
Yeah. Yeah, so you could hide images with this, right? You could set the background to a color, and then if mouse click, remove that, or if mouse click, set the background to an image to right over the top. You guys see that? And then you could set it on mouse release to cover it back up or something.